Welcome to Living Beyond the Invisible, A Walk with Heather. I'm your host, Heather Perrin. This is a place for honest conversations about living with invisible disabilities, navigating life's unexpected challenges, and growing in faith through it all. Whether you're living with an invisible disability, walking alongside someone who is, or simply looking for hope and encouragement, I'm so glad you're here. Let's walk beyond the invisible together. Hey everyone, welcome back to Living Beyond the Invisible, A Walk with Heather. I'm your host, Heather, and today we are here with Jenny Handy, and she is the author of Missing Hour Before. This is, actually I didn't finish the title. It's The Emotional Truth of Loving Someone with Chronic Pain. I've read this book and it is amazing. So, first of all, thank you, Jenny, for being here. I'm so glad that I can have this conversation with you today.
Thank you, Heather. It's so nice to be here with you today.
Yes. So I read your book. I'm just going to start off. We will get into it more, but it is actually really eye-opening. I know it was written for someone who loves someone with chronic pain. So like the caregiver or the spouse or the partner of someone with chronic pain, chronic illness.
Right.
But of course I read it since I'm the one doing the podcast, and let me just tell you, it is very eye-opening. I highly, even before we get started with you telling us what it's about, I'm just going to tell everyone to go get it. Even if you are the one with chronic pain, chronic illness, anything. It was very eye-opening, and there's a lot of things that I had never taken into consideration before that I am definitely taking into consideration now. So with that said, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and how this book came to be?
Sure. So I am a coach, a speaker, and an author, and I live in the mountains of Virginia with my husband and our kids. And we live a nice, quiet life out here. You know, we've been married for 23 years now. It's been a good long time. And the reason I wrote this book is long ago, my husband was injured in the Army. And just before COVID happened, he re-injured himself. And it was a pretty significant injury, and it started to impact our relationship over time. And as a wife, you think you're going to have all these, I have sympathy, I'm empathetic, and all this stuff. But I noticed myself getting angry and resentful. And it kind of shocked me a little bit, and I wasn't really sure how to deal with that. So me being somebody who loves books, I go to books all the time for help. I started researching, and I found an enormous amount of books for the person who has chronic pain. And then I was like, well, that doesn't work for me. That's not exactly what I'm going for. So I started seeing if there was any books for like the caregiver side. And what I found was a ton of books, again, telling you how to help your person that has chronic pain. I'm like, well, that doesn't help me either. So I decided I was going to write it myself. I'm like, it's not out there. If I need it, somebody else must need it. So I decided to just put my journey out there, do some research, find some things that could help people, and just see if it could help at least one family. So that was my goal with the book.
Yeah, and I will say, I can't speak for everyone, but while my husband hasn't read the book yet, it did help me. And so I really do think it will help others. So you wrote the book and you talk in the book a lot about your life and how you got there. And can you tell me just a little bit more? Obviously, we don't want to give too much away because we want people to read the book. But
Right.
can you just tell me a little bit more about like what your process was? And for those who are listening, I am in a major fibro flare today, so my brain is a little foggy. So if I say the word wrong, I apologize. But your process in your writing, like what was your research like?
So for my research, I wanted to understand all the different kinds of pain that there are, because me personally, I don't have pain. So I see my husband with it, but I don't have that, intimate knowledge with what he feels every day. So I wanted to research what kinds of pain there are, and like what the levels of pain are, and you know how long chronic pain lasts for. Is it a lifetime or is it just a short amount of time? So I did a lot of research on that, and I read some stories on other people who've been through some things and like different ways it affected their relationship, because different levels of pain and different kinds of pain will affect you different ways. So it's not a one size fits all. And so I really wanted to kind of get that holistic, if you will, look at it from my perspective so that I could then put it into words on what I wanted other people to see. So there was a lot of that involved, going from the basics to working how my story went in coming into that.
That makes a lot of sense. And I like what you said about there are different types of pain levels. There's different types of pain. A lot of my listeners, with being a invisible disability mainly podcast, a lot of my
Mm-hmm.
listeners understand that. And I think the thing that is so important for everyone to remember is that you can have the same diagnosis as someone else and your pain can be different.
Absolutely.
Someone else that has fibromyalgia may be able to handle things, whereas someone else may not be able to. So I think that's really important to look at too. And I'm glad you researched that because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people don't.
Right. And I knew that our situation was not the whole situation. There's people out there with all different kinds of experiences. So I felt it was really important. I mean, it's not super, it doesn't have everything in it, but it has the majority of things. So,
Right,
hmm
right. And I, of course I read it and I like that you put your mission in here. Like you actually, and I'm not going to show everything, but you
hmm
actually put what your mission is in here. And that's not something you see in a lot of self-help books.
hmm
And I put that in quotations because some self-help books are not really self-help books. I don't know how to
Right.
explain that. I don't know where my brain is going with
I
that.
know what you
But
mean.
okay, good. But I will say that again, I really enjoyed reading your mission.
hmm
Um, I love how you encourage people to write in the margins, highlight, do all of the things to really just make it your own book and write down how you're feeling. I also really like that you have little workbook pages in here so
Yeah.
people can, ask questions.
hmm
And this is not giving it away. I hope it's okay. I read this, but
Of
there's one
course.
question. How are you currently supporting your loved one and where do you feel drained? And that question, of course, I didn't answer it because I'm not the caregiver, but that question alone, and there was a ton of other stuff in the book, that really made me think, as the person with chronic pain, I think that's the thing. A lot of times we come off as selfish and we actually aren't meaning to be.
No.
Um, but I think a lot of caregivers and a lot of partners don't understand um, the level of pain we deal with. So
hmm
they think, well, they used to be able to do this, but now they can't do that. And they don't love me enough, or,
hmm
they're just selfish. They don't want to do it. And so I really like in the book how you explain that there are, I know I'm bouncing all around. ADHD is fun along with brain fog, but I like how you put all of that into perspective. And I like that question about how your partner feels because I think a lot of times those of us with it, we don't think about how our partner feels. And again, not out of selfishness, not
hmm
out of malice. Um, but I mean, can you talk a little bit about how you felt in the beginning? Kind of give people an idea of what it's like from the partner side when you see someone starting to go through these symptoms and the struggles. And I know you explain it in your book, so I mean, you
I
don't have to
do.
go in
Yeah.
super depth, but
Yeah, of
um,
course. So in the beginning, it was slow, of course, because as his pain increased, it changed. So at first, I would just get a little bit annoyed. I'd want to go somewhere, and he'd be like, "No, I don't want to." And so it was the usual annoyance if you want to go do something fun and your spouse is like, nah, how
Yeah.
everybody feels. And
Yeah.
then over time, it just progressed. And it was like a constant no and a constant I'm too tired and a constant, I don't want to go do that. And so I started then to get irritated at first. And then I would start to think, well, maybe he doesn't want to be around me anymore. Maybe, it's that weird mental game that you play with yourself because you're trying to rationalize something in your own perspective, which is completely separate from reality because your mind is playing all these tricks on you. And what you're seeing is your situation changing and you don't know why. Like, you know that your partner is not feeling well, but you can't rationalize in your head that that has zero to do with you. So I would start getting all this resentment and anger and frustration because these things were changing and he was changing what he wanted to do. And I was turning it into something that it wasn't. It was turning it into like a place where he didn't want me anymore. And so that is how that started to like catapult me down this path of, where I ended up finally before I decided to fix things.
Yeah, and I think that that is honestly pretty common. Um, when you are with someone, especially when you don't marry them or get with them or whatever it is, if you get with them before the chronic illness is what I'm trying
Right.
to say.
Yes.
Um, those questions are there. And I think it's a little different with my husband and I, because I was born with the congenital heart defect. So when he married me, he knew there were things that I could and could not do. Um, but then it was kind of like that where my symptoms with fibro started slowly. I also have osteoarthritis in my spine. I can't remember if we talked about that before or not, but
Yeah.
I also have that in my spine, and of course now it's in multiple places in my body. So that's fun. But um, so I think for him it was a lot like that too, and he tries to hide it so well, but
Oh
I
yeah.
know that the frustration is there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, at times I think he's gotten better now because we have been at this for a while. But is that how it was with you two? You would try to hide it from your husband, your frustration, or did you tell him you were frustrated?
Oh, no, I hid it completely because I didn't want to make it worse for him. I was like, I know this man is frustrated. He's not feeling well. Because just to back up and tell you what his pain stuff is, he has osteoarthritis in his hip and his back. He has two blown discs, two compressed discs. He had an injury where he had a forklift roll over on him, so he almost lost his leg, and he has nerve pain in both legs. So he has a lot going on, and I'm like, in no way am I going to tell this man that I'm frustrated and irritated with things because, again, I'm thinking that would just make it worse. So I was going to hide it. I'm like, I'll just be the happy go lucky wife and just try to do the best that I can. I wasn't always successful. Sometimes little things would prompt me to, we'd get in arguments or whatever because frustration only goes so far.
Yes.
But I tried desperately to keep my feelings and thoughts out of everything so that I didn't make his situation more complicated than it needed to be, which in hindsight was not the healthy thing to do, but that's what I did.
Yes, and I think that that is what a lot of caregivers do.
Hmm.
Now, of course, there's some out there that are just not nice people in general. So, of course,
Sure.
um, but I think that there sometimes, and maybe I'm wrong, and I'm not actually speaking for you, of course, but especially in my marriage and with people I have talked to, I think there's a breakdown in communication at times
Yes.
because the caregiver or the spouse, whatever you want to call them, they get frustrated. They're on this side and they get really frustrated at times, but they don't want to say anything, like you said, because they don't want to make it worse. Because I can speak from experience. And when I think my husband is upset with me or frustrated with me, it does make things worse.
It does.
Um,
Hmm.
but then you have the chronically ill person or the person with chronic pain,
Hmm.
and they also don't want to make it worse because they get frustrated with themselves.
Yes.
And I don't know your husband, so I really can't speak for him, but I think I can, in a way, speak for the chronic pain
Sure.
community when I say that we get so frustrated with ourselves, with the people we used to be.
Yes.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, we lose that, and it's really hard. And I think unless you live it as the caregiver, because you
Mm-hmm.
live it with him,
Yes.
or the person that actually has the chronic pain, you don't get it. If you're on
Mm-hmm.
the outside looking in, you're like, how is there a breakdown in communication? You guys should be on the same team. And yes, yes, you should. But again, you're dealing with one side of it. You're seeing that frustration from you because, you're not sure how to deal with this. And then the person with the chronic pain is trying to learn how to deal with it as well. And so there's frustration. And so I think that breakdown in communication is really strong.
Yes.
Have you noticed that with your marriage, that there's sometimes, you're both frustrated, but you don't communicate it well?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was one of the hardest things to deal with because when we got married, he had had his injury a long time ago, his initial injury. So he already had walked with a limp and had some pain.
Hmm.
But this is relatively new, if you will. It's in the past 7 years that this has completely altered our marriage. So I can hear him and see him say how frustrated he is. And I can see the anguish and agony when he gets up in the morning, when he tries to walk, when he does anything. So I see it. And I know that he doesn't want to say it. He's a very strong man, very proud man. Does not want to admit that he has this pain, right? So me, on the other hand, I know he's this strong person who doesn't like to admit something's wrong or to say something's wrong and he needs help. So I would just not communicate how I was feeling because I'm like, I know this hurts his pride to say that he needs help or that he's suffering, and I don't want to make that worse. And so it starts with like small not communicating, miscommunication. I can speak English, I promise. And it just goes deeper and deeper. So before you know it, you're down this path where you're not talking about it at all. You're just each existing in your own little spheres. And I really, really wanted to be honest in this book about what I was feeling because I think a lot of people hide that. And I think it's very valuable to, I sometimes tell people it puts me in a bad light in that book because I literally lay it out there on how I was feeling about stuff. And I think that that was important because that's one step in telling you how to start communicating again. Because if you can be honest with your own feelings to yourself and not hide those to yourself, you have to get past that before you can build that communication back with your spouse or your
Yes.
partner if you're not married.
Yes.
Hmm.
And I know you said you think it paints you kind of in a bad light as far as that goes, but I really don't think it does. Um, Maybe someone will see it that way, but if they do, they're likely not being truly honest with themselves.
Right.
Um, I don't think it does, and that's coming from someone who has a host of invisible disabilities and chronic pain. Um, I think the honesty is very refreshing.
Hmm.
I see people who write books or they tell their stories when it comes to dealing with chronic pain, or they're dealing with their spouse or partner with chronic pain, and they gloss over it, right? They act like, oh, it doesn't bother me at all.
Hmm.
I'm there for them because they think that's what they should do. They
Right.
think that's what society wants them to do. And yes,
Hmm.
you should be there for your partner. That goes both ways.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I enjoyed your honesty. I thought it was, like I said, very refreshing. It was eye opening in a good way, like in the best
Yeah.
way possible. Because again, there's things that as someone living with chronic pain, I don't think about
Hmm.
because I'm thinking about myself. And
Right.
as I'm reading your book and I'm reading your feelings and your emotions and your thoughts and all of these things, I'm thinking, oh, Andrew has done this.
Yeah.
Or, oh, I have done this. Like when you were talking about things your husband does. And I'm
Hmm.
like, okay. I need to really reevaluate this. I really need to take a really deep look in the mirror because I'm not being fair to him sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that honesty, it was something that I, as the person with chronic pain, needed to
I
see.
appreciate hearing that because
Yeah.
when you write something like this, you're wondering, at least I was, how far to go, how
Yes.
far to open myself up because you're really going deep into yourself and just putting it out there into the world. And I
Yes.
think a lot of people aren't comfortable doing that.
No.
Yeah.
No. And I think I mentioned to you when we had our pre-interview that I'm currently writing my memoir and I'm struggling with it because of that. I'm like, how much do I tell? Do I lay it all out there or do I hold back some things?
Mm-hmm.
Because my life is not a, I mean, it hasn't been a walk in the park.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
when I tell my story to some people, they want the glossed over version.
I
You know,
think it's
they
more
want
comfortable
the,
for people. Yeah.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I really like how, and I'm just going to say this, and I don't mean it in a bad way,
No,
I
it's
promise.
fine.
I like how you make it uncomfortable for people
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes that is exactly what we need.
Thank you for saying that. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. I wasn't sure if I should say it,
No.
but I was like, well, I don't think I'll offend her by saying it.
No, no, no,
Um,
no.
but it really is, I really do believe that truth is something that needs to be said. And sometimes we have to make ourselves uncomfortable, make
Absolutely.
others uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
There is something that I like to say, and I say it often. I mean, not like every day, but I say it often is that living with chronic pain, a lot of times we wear masks
Mm-hmm.
in the invisible disability or chronic pain community. We wear a mask. We
Yeah.
pretend we're just fine. We
Mm-hmm.
don't want to make others uncomfortable. Well, here's the thing. We should not have to make ourselves uncomfortable in
Nope.
order to make others comfortable. And I just forgot what I was going to say. Sorry, brain fog is fun.
Yeah.
But I think that the whole point of your book, you telling your story, your side of it, like I said at the very beginning, is absolutely 100% something that even those with chronic pain should read. I know that it was not written for the actual chronic pain patient or
Mm-hmm.
person, but again, that truth that makes people think, oh, that's uncomfortable,
Yeah.
is needed. And I hear all the time that from people, and they tell me, Heather, my marriage is failing. You know, I was diagnosed with lupus or fibromyalgia or osteoarthritis or whatever the case may be, because they all come with pain.
Right.
And they'll tell me, you know, I was just diagnosed with this and my marriage is struggling. Do you have any advice for me?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, before I found you and read your book, I had my own advice. Now I tell them they definitely need to get this. I have actually recommended this 3 times in the last week,
Wow. Thank you.
just so you know. But I tell them, and I think it goes along a little bit with your book. One of the things I tell them is that they need to give their partner grace as well,
Mm-hmm.
because it is not only affecting you. And like I said, your book was eye-opening to me, because there are a lot of things that I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that I think I have done well, and I don't know, Andrew's not sitting here with me, so maybe I haven't, but
Yes.
is give him grace.
Yes.
Because yes, he knew when he married me I had a congenital heart defect. So my situation's a tiny bit different than a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
However, he didn't know about the fibromyalgia. He didn't know about the osteoarthritis. He didn't know that I was going to come down with breast cancer. I
Right.
mean, I didn't know those things.
Of course not.
And right. So I tell them to give their partner grace. Now,
Mhm.
obviously, if their partner is abusive, run.
Of
But,
course. Absolutely.
but when it's just a normal relationship with what sounds like yours is, mine is, you have to think about the other person. And I think this is my long way of saying this, sorry. It is something that we don't think about enough as the
Mhm.
person with chronic pain.
Right.
And so coming from your side of it,
Hmm.
do you have any little words of wisdom or advice that you can give, like my side of it, other than just give them grace? Like, what are some things, if they're new to this situation, how can they help their partner adjust to all of it? Because both people are adjusting at the same time.
Absolutely. Hmm. So both people are in fact, yes, adjusting at the same time, but you're adjusting separate from each other while
Mhm.
together. So there's
Mhm.
two different things going on. So what I would recommend is from the person who has the pain, you absolutely have to be honest. You have to be honest about what you're feeling, what it's affecting, and like if your partner asks you to go do something or to have some experience with you and you say no, it's going to sound unfair, but you have to explain why. Because otherwise, we, on the other hand, are sitting here going, well, they always say no. They don't give me a reason why. So that's the first thing I would say. That kind of beginning to the communication. From the person, from my perspective, you also have to be honest and open communication. You have to let your partner know how it's affecting you, which is super uncomfortable, but you have to be honest and say, this is making me feel sad. This is making me feel alone. This is making me feel lost. Any kind of those words, which is why when I wrote this book, I included those journaling pages that you mentioned because I want those questions to be in your mind while you're going through it because it really forces you to think why you're feeling what you're feeling and what that means and how to get past it. So once you get those basic communications going, there's still going to be struggles. It's not 100%. There's no 100% answer to fix how everything's going to happen, but it gives you the start so you can start talking and start being honest with what you're each feeling and how it's affecting you.
Yes. I agree with everything you just said, and I really like how you said it. You said it way better than I did. Uh, so, looking at your book, and I had this marked with my hand, and I'm not going to read it because I want you guys to read it on your own. But I like how you have a page that says a note for you at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have three little boxes that gives you signs that you may be losing yourself. Then there's tips for reconnecting with yourself. And there's conversation starters. And I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is important for caregivers to do, whether it is chronic pain caregivers, whether it is someone that their spouse is or partner is going through cancer. I mean,
Right.
these fit for that as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so I read those. I read the signs you may be losing yourself. And again, I'm not going to read them,
Mm-hmm.
but if you read them and you are the chronic pain or invisible disability person, switch some of the words.
Mm-hmm.
And where it says your partner, put my or, you know, I or whatever the correct grammar is in that. And I think it's helpful for that as well because we tend to lose ourselves as well.
Oh, of course.
Um,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and to be honest, I've read a ton of different books on chronic pain and chronic illness. And even though this one wasn't written for us, it was written for the other side. I think it is one of the best that I have read. And I'm not
Oh,
just saying that because you're right in front of me. I truly mean it.
thank you.
Um, because there's so much in it that we can flip and we
Mm-hmm.
can change the wording. Instead of your partner or instead of partner, you can put my or I or, mine. And it will help you too. And I think it will help with the communication and the connection with your partner as far as that goes too. So
Mm-hmm.
while you wrote it for the loved one,
Yes.
I truly, again, as someone who has lived with this for several years, who has read so many books on chronic pain and chronic illness, that I could probably start my own library with it. Um, this is the one I will be recommending going forward,
Wow.
to
That
everyone.
means a lot to me.
Um, and that is no shade to anybody else. I've read a ton of great books.
Oh, so have
Don't get
I.
me wrong.
Yeah.
But most of them are glossed over. Most of them don't get down to the nitty gritty. Most of them only deal with, like you said, how to help your partner, or if you
Right.
are that person, how to manage pain, how to do this, how to do that. And those things are great. And I've used some of the techniques on managing pain. Unfortunately, my pain is ridiculous. And for some reason, half the things don't work for my body that works for others. Um, but yes, so we've talked a lot. I think I've talked in circles, but is there anything else you would like us to know about you or your book, or um, you know, just anything you want us to know?
So there's a couple things I would like to say. First, I want to
Yes,
be upfront with your listeners that I am not a doctor. I am not a therapist, nothing. I'm just a wife, a mother, a woman who went through this, and I wanted to help other people. So that's
yes,
important for me to put out there.
yes,
And the second thing is, while this was uncomfortable for me to write and to publish because I had to be as extremely honest and open as possible, I think that if you are in this situation, that's the only way to get through it. You absolutely have to be 100% open, willing to talk, and willing to communicate. And if you are already to the point where I was, where you hit your breaking point, you have to fix yourself first from either side. Because if you don't fix yourself and how you react to things, you can't go into it with good heart, good intentions to solve your relationship problems with your spouse. So it's really, really important to look inside and work on you and find your own way to your own happiness so that you can bring that into your relationship and then help that grow back to where you guys can have a new happy. It can
yes,
never be 100%, but you need a new happy. Mm-hmm.
yes. I like that. I like that you said new happy. And I
Mm-hmm.
also like that you said you were just a wife and mother, not a doctor. Same here. We're just on, you know, different sides of the same coin pretty much.
Yeah,
And sometimes I think that that is better than some of the doctors give us.
I think so. Because you're real people.
Yes.
I mean, they're real
Yeah.
people, but you know what I mean.
Well, yeah. But yeah, but unless they live it, they can do all of the medical school that they want and all of
Yes.
the research that they want, but
Hmm.
unless they live it, they don't really know.
Exactly. And if
So,
I can help one family with what I
yes,
wrote, then I'll be so happy.
yes, yes.
Hmm.
I think you will help a lot more than just
That,
one family.
yeah. Hopefully.
Um,
Hope so.
so before we go, tell us is there any way that people can connect with you?
Yes, so in the back of the book, there's a QR code that goes to my website,
Mm-hmm.
and that has my email, it has my LinkedIn, it has my Instagram, it has my YouTube. I do have a coaching channel on YouTube where I share like little growth mindset things. So I have all kinds of ways to connect in there. So they can just, scan that and then find their way to me. There's lots of ways. Yeah.
And I will have the book linked in the show notes, so that people can easily find it. That way, because sometimes people are like, well, where do I get it? How do I
Yeah.
get it? So that it will be in the show notes.
Yeah.
Um,
It is
so,
on Amazon in multiple countries and it's also on Barnes and Noble online. So,
okay, yes. And I will actually just link both of those, Amazon and Barnes and Noble.
okay.
Because some people like to buy from different places.
Exactly.
So again, thank you so much for being here today and chatting with me. I'm really mean it when I say everyone needs to read this book. If they are someone that, that has chronic pain in their lives in one way or another. So thank you again. And thank you for writing the book. I don't feel like I said that, but
My pleasure. And thank you for having me as well. I
you're
really appreciate the
welcome.
opportunity to talk to everybody.
Yes. I am excited to get this out to them. I think that a lot of my followers are really going to enjoy it. And you gave us a lot of great information that, again, as the person with chronic pain, we may not think about. So I appreciate that. All right, guys, I will see you next week, and thank you to Jenny again. Have a wonderful day. Love you guys. Bye. Thanks for joining me today. Don't forget to subscribe, follow me on social media, and check out my Patreon for exclusive content. All links from today's episode will be linked in the show notes. Until next time, keep living beyond the invisible.